Hello everyone, and welcome to this latest video discussion as part of the RICS Tech Partner Programme. My name is Andrew Knight and I've been with RICS for nearly 12 years now. My role at RICS is to look at the impact of data and technology right across the profession and the built and natural environment. And with over 110,000 members working worldwide, right across the property life cycle, from land, planning and development through construction, brokerage, valuation, finance, building and property management, there's clearly a huge opportunity for data and tech to have a very positive impact in the way our members work and deliver services for their clients. And indeed, our members work across all the different asset types of land itself, commercial, residential, alternative assets and infrastructure. So once again, a very wide canvas upon which data and tech is having a profound effect on the profession. And today I'm really glad to have Christina Mauer join us from einwert. So please do join us on camera, Christina.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. I'm happy to join.
And pleasure to have you on the discussion today. Now, before we get into the bits and the bytes and the technology and the data side, it's always nice, I think, to have a kind of a human piece around the kind of origin story and backstory of the people we talk to. So it'd be great to hear about your backstory, how you've come into this particular area of practice, and indeed what the origin story of einwert was.
Yeah, sure. So, well, my background is mainly technical. I am a civil engineer, so that's at least what I studied long term ago. And yeah, after that time, I decided to go on a PhD. So during that time, actually, I wanted to go into the direction of construction management. But it was like that. My professor told me, well, Christina, I think you are better off in the real estate industry, so I'm going to give you a topic about real estate valuation. And I was like, oh, nice. Are you kidding me? Or is that real? And yeah, so this is how I got in contact with real estate valuation. So yeah, I started to have a look at the topic and found it super interesting because actually it has so much to do with the buildings we are constructing. And yeah, in the end, I was really successful in doing this. So I was at that time developing an algorithm about real estate valuation, especially the discount weights. This is what I was focusing on for the people who know what it might be. And yeah, right after that time, I decided to go to a real estate fund. So I was a fund manager and managing portfolios all over the world. Especially, actually, it was United States and Germany, which was our main focus at that time. And as you can imagine, also there was a big part of my job was valuation. Yeah, so how I got in contact and still am in contact with valuation right now.
Indeed. And so what was the origin story of einwert with you and your partners? How was that set up?
Yeah, so it pretty much arose from the problem we had in our jobs. At my time at the fund, I, of course, had a lot to do with valuation. First of all, I needed to evaluate myself. As a fund manager, you always have to know the values of your assets, and not only the value of the existing assets, but also the value of potential new assets that you want to acquire for one of the funds, one of the existing funds, or build up a new fund from scratch. And that was super interesting. But on the other hand, as actually anybody in the institutional real estate market, you are required to have an independent appraisal from a certified appraiser too. So my evaluation was nice to have, but also independent evaluation was actually the most important thing. And of course, it makes sense to protect any investor. That's for sure. So that was pretty interesting because we worked with nearly anybody in the real estate valuation industry. So from really smaller appraisal offices to huge corporations who also offer valuation services. And it was interesting to see for me at that time that any work related to valuation is carried out manually. So it doesn't matter if you are a small office or if you're a large corporate, mainly it's the same manual steps that you have to take to carry out the valuation. And for me, as the client of those appraisers, that was, of course, not such a nice thing, because yeah, carrying out things manually also means you are slow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in transactions, probably not the best idea to be slow. I mean, you have to go fast because there are so many other investors potentially interested in your property. So yeah, it took a while to receive those appraisals, which was not the fault of the appraisers themselves. It was a problem of the lack of technology in this sector. Yeah, there was simply no accurate systems available for them to help them in carrying out their work. And then after then finally receiving the appraisal in the end, that was also an interesting part for me, because you can imagine it's it's a lot of work to carry out an appraisal. So that means appraisers, they not only look at the property itself, they also look at the market, the location. So they carry out huge analysis, which are then described in those appraisal reports. They have a lot of pages in the end. So you can imagine, like, we had up to 50 or 100 pages in such appraisal reports. And since I was not having only one appraisal a year, there were a lot of appraisals I needed to carry out. That was huge work for me then to use the valuable data in those appraisal reports and really typing it into my system. And that was so annoying, because I was like, guys, we live in the 21st century. Why isn't it possible to have APIs speaking with your and my system to get all the data out of the appraisals? Because it's so useful and necessary for me to have them as a fund manager, especially. And yeah, those were mainly the points where I then finally decided to say, hey guys, sorry, I'm out. I know that it's going to be it's possible to carry out this work much better than we have it right now in the market, because of simply the technology we all have. I mean, if you look at, for example, iPhones, where you can easily take a picture of a text and get Siri to read it for you.
Yeah.
That's possible. So why isn't this possible in real estate valuation especially? And yeah, that was the point where we started Einwert to make things better.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think you've really kind of encapsulated and summarized that problem of, on the one hand, a lot of information coming across on a regular basis, but coming across in a way that you can't really consume it quickly. And as you say, even just the process of retyping the information, there's potential errors there. And, you know, the whole thing does feel very kind of old fashioned. So from that sense, with Einwert, you know, what are you doing to fix that? What's the solution, and what kind of technology are you using?
Yeah, so our goal is to streamline this whole manual valuation process, really from receiving the mandate. That means when a customer or a client, like a fund, a bank, or whoever is in need of an appraisal, gets in contact with the appraiser first, to the point where the appraiser then carries out those huge analysis about the location, the market, the calculation itself, like the value calculation, but also writing and formatting of 100 pages reports. All this is streamlined by our software. And in the software, we are using different types of technologies. Of course, I mean, for a couple of months, I guess anyone in the industry knows ChatGPT, which is natural language generation tool. These are technologies that we are using for a long time right now. Now it's easier to explain it to people, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, we are in any step of the evaluation, we are using software to streamline it, to, for example, scrape valuable data for the location analysis online, so that the appraiser in the end has all this information at the push of a button. And this is exactly how we see all this. We don't want to replace the appraiser, because he is definitely necessary. It's important to have this independent opinion. And we simply look for tools, or we are creating tools that are assisting him in any step of the valuation. And at the same time, by this, offering a much better service to the clients of the appraisals, like funds and banks and so on. So by offering, for example, APIs to the
Yeah.
systems of clients is one point, definitely, especially at the beginning when the mandating takes place, when when the fund places an order for the appraiser. So this is something where you need APIs. So instead of using a thousand emails to
Yeah.
exchange all the data and all the information about the property, this is carried out or done by API. And the same at the end of the appraisal. After finishing the appraisal, there's one thing, of course, you need this PDF document with the
Yeah.
signature and the stamp, but you also need all the valuable data, which is then directly via API transferred to the client systems. And by this, we can also offer dashboards and anything to analyze based on the value and also the market data we're scraping.
So I guess to summarize, you're giving the client the best of both worlds. They're getting their human readable document, the PDF that's signed off in their kind of familiar format, but at the same time, you're giving them that structured data straight into their system. So as I say, you're kind of giving both things. And I suppose also another point you're making is that this is not about replacing the valuer. It's about actually making their job easier, allowing them to use their judgment and their expertise, but almost freeing up those really kind of basic tasks of gathering data and formatting and workflow. So it sounds like the best of all worlds in that way. In that sense, in terms of customers, I mean, you obviously mentioned funds and valuers and lenders. What kind of customers are you focusing on in this initial stage of rolling out this service?
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of different groups out there who are in need of appraisals or evaluations. That's nearly anybody, working in the real estate industry. So as you just mentioned, it's lenders, it's funds, it's always also insurances, but it's also tax advisors,
Yeah,
and a lot of groups or segments you probably don't know that they all are in need of evaluations, and even private people are in need of a lot of evaluations. For us, especially at the beginning, it was important to have someone who is able to immediately deal with our digital approach. So we started focusing on digital platforms. That means, any real estate platform that is offering real estate services, who is digital itself,
yeah.
therefore really, really easy for us to get access to. But also we are working with real estate funds and lenders.
Okay. And obviously, like many people in the marketplace, you want to have a distinct kind of solution. How would you summarize the kind of things, the kind of approaches you've taken that make your approach distinct, perhaps from other kind of solutions on the market?
Yeah, definitely. There are a couple of things. We consider ourselves as the first so-called hybrid appraiser in the market. That means we are not a simple software provider and selling software to appraisers. On the other hand, we are not a simple valuation company selling appraisals to those in need of appraisals. We are the hybrid mix. So we consider ourselves as a tech company. This is our core. This is where we have a really, really high expertise, and leveraging our tech expertise with real estate expertise under one roof. And this is something that's super special because we are offering the service. We have our own internal valuation team, which is actually not our long-term goal. We don't want to become the biggest appraisal firm in the
Yeah.
market. For us, it's important to leverage our technology later with all the appraisals out there
Yeah.
to have corporations and partnerships. We have already started to do that. So we have corporations with larger appraiser companies
Yeah.
and also smaller ones, so that they can profit from our software, and at the same time we can offer the best service to our clients like funds and banks and so on. The second point, which is very distinguishing, is that we are the first venture-backed company in this field, and this gives us simply a completely different view on things, because with a venture funding, that means that you can scale much faster. So we can invest in technology. Of course, we have a step-by-step approach, that's for sure, but it gives us more opportunities to speed up the whole process. And this is also what makes us very unique.
Indeed. And one question that almost always comes up now, particularly when we talk about valuation, is the need now to include, wherever possible, those ESG drivers in coming to some estimate of how much those are affecting valuation. I know there's a lot of debate about how certain assets will be affected either in terms of a premium or a discount or a haircut. So how are you kind of managing to get that kind of ESG data and build that into the process and the solution?
Yeah, that's a very, very important point, especially nowadays. And yeah, I was also a guest on one of the RICS conferences about this topic, ESG and valuation. So very interesting, very important. And for us, it's important to look at the market from a different perspective, because so far, all the approaches you can see in the market, and I think this is also a reason why they fail, is they simply focus on comparing transactional data of let's say ESG or let's say sustainable buildings compared to non-sustainable buildings. The problem here is that, especially with properties, it's hard to really isolate this specific characteristic of sustainability. So if you compare prices, usually now, if you look at sustainable properties out there, most of the time it's buildings that are, let's say, not older than 4 or 5 years, compared to a building which is 60 years old. Of course, there are different characteristics who could be the reason for the price difference. So I think this is a reason why so many comparisons fail and why it's so hard in the market nowadays to really distinguish or to really define a premium or a brown discount. And this is exactly why we decided to look at this from a completely different perspective. And this comes out from a research of my co-founder. He also did a PhD about real estate valuation with special focus on especially those things. And our perspective comes from the final, let's say, willingness to pay for different characteristics of a property. So we are approaching more from the reasoning part to say, why is it like this? We come from the cash flow perspective instead of comparing final prices, which are hard to look at isolated.
No, it's interesting, and I suppose there is that danger, as we're all taught in a statistics course, that correlation is not causation, as you say. So the fact that actually the credentials of the building might be very strong from a sustainability point of view, if they're all new with very high covenant strength occupiers, you're going to get value, and it's not necessarily caused by the sustainability piece. So that's fascinating. So how would you describe the current status of Einwert? Obviously, you've got future plans, which I'll ask you in a minute, but where are you in terms of your ambitions so far?
So yeah, I mean, we started last year. We had our funding last year. We had our market entry last year. So a couple of things in a very short time, but this is exactly what we are aiming for. We want to scale fast. So at the moment, we are in the market. We are especially focusing right now on the German market. We are working for smaller and bigger customers across the country. And yeah, now trying to scale our product every day to add new features, new valuable features. We are carrying out a lot of interviews also with our customers to focus on their needs and really relieve the pain that is related to valuation in the market right now. And this is where we are at the moment. Still growing, looking always for high potential talents out there to join our team, and also are growing our customer base.
Good. So I mean, are there anything specifically you'd highlight as things you'd like to do in the next, I don't know, 6-12 months that are on your roadmap, Christina?
Yeah, definitely. It's scaling internationally. I mean, starting in Germany is nice because it's one of the biggest real estate markets in Europe. That's sure. But there are so many other interesting countries who have the same lack of technology in the valuation space. So for us, it's clear that we, within the next 12 months, want to go internationally, want to scale across different countries, and also offer different types of services. So far, at the beginning, we were mainly focusing on the plain valuation itself, but also expanding our product offering to our different customers, and also our service offering. And one important thing there is that we want to start our platform model. That means at the moment we have, let's say, a handful of partner appraisers who are working for us. So they are either self-employed or bigger appraisal companies, and we have a corporation. But the partner model is definitely something that we are starting to roll out right now. So we are starting to partner with different bigger appraisal companies who are in need of a better tech, and rolling out our partner network and model to also have regional expertise in any corner of Europe.
Indeed, well, as you know, it's so critical to have that kind of regional knowledge, isn't it? The technology is great, but you need people who understand that local market when you begin to internationalize. Well, it's been a fascinating chat to you, Christina, and thanks ever so much for your time today. And I look forward to catching up with you again in the future and see how einwert's developing. But for today, thanks ever so much, Christina.
Thank you very much for having me, Andrew. It was nice speaking to you.
Pleasure.